Most of us will be familiar with this area as the Greek islands, but when I was in the Dodecanese putting in place all the details of this trip, standing on the harbor wall at Symi, what I was looking at across the water was Turkey, Anatolia, clear as anything, less than an hour away by boat. On this trip I created just for our Wheel and Anchor members, we visit 6 of these islands. This little corner of the Med has a border that's been drawn and redrawn throughout most of the last century, and it's a corner of Greece that sits closer to its old neighbor than to its own capital. That geography is what makes this trip what it is. A quieter Greece than the one most of us know from photographs, threaded by a wooden boat that's ours alone. I'm Gordon Dreger, founder of Wheel and Anchor, and let me show you the Dodecanese Islands. We start on Rhodes, 4 nights inside the largest inhabited medieval town in Europe, with a day up to the clifftop Acropolis at Lindos, and another out to a working vineyard in the hills. Then we cross the strait to Fethiye on the Turkish coast, and board our 44-meter wooden gulet, the Tasane 8. She's ours for the next 7 nights. From there, we thread the smaller Dodecanese, Symi and its tiered harbor, the sailors' monastery at Panormitis, Tilos, the one-time home of dwarf elephants, the live volcano on Nisyros, and the island of Hippocrates on Kos. We finish where the Knights of St. John once did, crossing back to Turkey at Bodrum, the ancient Halikarnassos. Our journey begins right where I'm standing. Rhodes, a UNESCO World Heritage City and one of the best preserved medieval towns in all of Europe. This will be our base for the first part of our trip. We'll walk the Street of the Knights, visit Lindos with its Acropolis, and share a welcome event that sets the tone for everything to come. About 6,000 people still live and work inside those medieval walls, which is what makes this the largest inhabited medieval town in Europe, rather than a museum behind a rope. The Knights of St. John held Rhodes from 1309 until a 6-month Ottoman siege took it in 1522, and they left the place its bones. Further up the island, the Acropolis at Lindos stands 116 meters straight above the sea, crowned by the Doric temple of Athena Lindia. People have worshipped on that rock since at least the 9th century BC. From the top, you look down on St. Paul's Bay, a near enclosed circle of blue where the apostle is said to have come ashore around 51 AD. Another day takes us up to Philharminos, where peacocks wander the grounds of a 15th century monastery as if they own them, and on to a small working vineyard for the afternoon, local meze paired with what we've tasted, and a slow sip of tsipuro, the local grape spirit, to send us on our way. And then everything changes. We trade cobblestones for teak decks. The harbor here in Rhodes points us east toward Turkey, where our gulet is waiting. The Tasane 8 is a 44-meter gulet, a traditional wooden vessel, broad and low, built in Fethiye in 2012 of teak and mahogany. The word gulet itself comes from the Turkish word for shipyard. She carries up to 26 guests across 13 cabins, and we charter her entirely for ourselves. The only people aboard are our own group and crew of around 10. Like most of our nauticals programs, this isn't a cruise ship, and that's the whole point. Cabins are comfortable rather than spacious. A few mornings start early, not because we want them to, but because Greek and Turkish customs decide when we're allowed to move, and we cross that border a total of 4 times. That's the trade. In return, long lunches at anchor in bays where you can swim off the deck, and the rare quiet of falling asleep in a place with no road leading to it. Most nights, the loudest sound is the rigging. High above Panormitis Bay, it's easy to see why Symi is often called the undisputed jewel of the Dodecanese. Most travelers lose their hearts to the main harbor of Dialos, a technicolor dream where neoclassical houses in ochre, terracotta, and indigo are stacked like rows of candy. But from up here, you see the island's other soul, these dramatic limestone mountains. The contrast is absolutely incredible. You have this wild, sun-drenched wilderness rising sharply from the sea, with ancient monasteries like the one on the coast just below, as well as secret valleys, all surrounding the most picturesque port in Greece. In checking this island out, it was one of my favorite stops, and I'm sure it'll be yours. The town below tells you why. In the 19th century, this small island held around 22,000 people, grown rich on sponge diving and shipbuilding. Today, closer to 2,600 live here, and the grand ochre and terracotta mansions stacked tier by tier around the harbor are the inheritance of that boom. Symiots were the first Greeks to dive for sponges and once worked grounds as far off as North Africa. We moor in the main harbor overnight. After dark, it lights up, tier by tier. And in the morning, we round the southern end of the island to the deep, sheltered bay of Panormitis. The monastery here is dedicated to the Archangel Michael, patron saint of sailors across the Dodecanese. Its Baroque bell tower, raised in 1911, holds a bell of about 750 kilograms, said to be the tallest of its kind anywhere. The loveliest thing about Panormitis isn't the building, though. It's a tradition. Seafarers in trouble write a prayer, drop it into the Aegean inside a bottle with a small coin, and trust the current to carry it here. Many actually arrive, and the monks keep them. There are no formal guides on Symi, which kind of suits the place, and a short sail from there brings us to our next island. And one of the things we're going to do is go hunting for elephants. In a cave on Tilos called Carcadio, excavators have recovered roughly 15,000 bones from about 45 dwarf elephants, animals barely 120 centimeters tall, the last elephants known to have lived anywhere in Europe. One lovely theory holds that ancient people, finding the skulls with their single large nasal opening, took them for one-eyed giants, and so dreamed up the Cyclops. After dinner, we'll head up to a place that gets under your skin in a way you don't quite expect, the abandoned village of Microchorio. Leaving Microchorio feels like stepping out of a time capsule. Once it was a bustling medieval village, but it's now a hauntingly beautiful labyrinth of stone shells and wild sage, which was abandoned by its residents decades ago. But this is the essence of Tilos, a soulful, quiet sanctuary and a pioneer in eco-living. It's a place where nature is slowly reclaiming what history left behind, offering a profound sense of peace and stillness that you won't find anywhere else in the Aegean. A drink among the ruins is an odd and good way to end a day, and the next morning, 2 hours of open water carry us to an island with a very different pulse, Nisyros. It isn't an island with a volcano on it, the island is the volcano, the tip of one rising straight out of the sea, with a caldera roughly 4 kilometers across. This is the Stephanos crater, one of the largest and most accessible hydrothermal craters on the planet. Here, we aren't just looking at a volcano, we'll be standing on a living, breathing giant. Between the steaming vents and the yellow sulfur crystals, you can actually feel the pulse of the Earth right beneath your feet. The crater is about 300 meters wide and 27 meters deep. The last eruption was back in 1888, which feels reassuringly distant, right up until you're walking on the floor of it. That evening, we head ashore at Mandraki for dinner. There's a fisherman's family taverna, something I found while scouting this trip that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. The food on board the Goulet is great. This will be better. Sometimes the meal you remember from a trip isn't the one in the brochure, it's the one the founder couldn't stop talking about until the office gave in. We dock in Coast Town in the morning, the busiest of our islands and arguably the most consequential. This is the Asclepion, essentially the world's first premier wellness retreat. These monumental steps behind me lead to the sanctuary where Hippocrates, the father of medicine, practiced and taught his craft over 2 millennia ago. It's a sacred space where ancient healing energy meets the most breathtaking views in the Dodecanese. From those terraces, you can see clean across the sea to the Turkish coast, which is where Hippocrates, as a young man, is thought to have gone to study. Our guide Ioannis will walk us all through it, and he's one of those people who, by the end of a morning, makes you forget you were ever on a tour. The afternoon takes us up into the Aspendiu mountain villages and the home of Mama Contessa, whose family has worked the same land for 3 generations. We cook with her, taste the olive oil her son presses just a few rows away, and eat what we've made in the taverna she runs out the front. 1 short hour of water then carries us on to Bodrum on the Turkish coast, the ancient Halikarnassus, birthplace of Herodotus, the father of history. Our last night is at anchor in a bay outside the harbor, the lights of the town across the water, the rigging quiet for one more evening. 13 days, 2 countries, a small group of Canadians who'd rather thread the smaller islands by wooden boat than tick the famous ones off a list. Trips like this don't happen by accident. They're built carefully with the right people, the right boat, the right rhythm of movement and stillness. If you've ever wanted to see this corner of the world the way it deserves to be seen, I'd love for you to join us. The Dodecanese is waiting, and so am I. See you on board.